Good morning, guys, gals, and non binary pals. I hope you had a great weekend, got out into the beautiful sunshine, recharged those batteries, got a little rest, pretended there was no school on Monday because we've got some work to do. Last week, we talked about subtext, text, and themes in classic pieces of work. We talked a little bit about Richard III. We looked at some of the general themes of it, some of the text and subtext. Can somebody remind me what's subtext? Charles. Right. The meaning underneath the actual text. So what the message the author is trying to get across. Right. Trying to kind of slip past. Nice turn of phrase. Try and get you to notice without actually noticing it. There's a lot of political subtext in Richard III. Shakespeare was talking a lot about the United Kingdom, the British, the English government, and we've talked about it before. Bill Shakespeare didn't just like write entertaining things. He often had some sort of theme or subtext, even with the comedies that he was trying to get across. So Richard III, we talked about this a little bit last week. Now, over the weekend, I had asked you guys to take a look at some of the books that we were talking about last week, Wizard of Oz, Lord of the Flies, The Outsiders, and take a look at some of the film adaptations, TV adaptations of those things, and whether choices the actors, directors, and writers made enhanced, ignored, or changed the subtext and theme. Amanda, you did Wizard of Oz. I was reading that this morning. I thought that was really good work. Can you share with the class some of your thoughts on it? Right. The Wizard of Oz, quite literally, is about a girl who gets sucked up into a tornado with her pup and end up in an alternate reality. What did we talk about? Do you remember what we talked about last week in terms of the subtext of that actual story? Right, industrialization. Now, Wizard of Oz is often that is often kind of ignored. People don't talk about the industrialization themes in Wizard of Oz. It's really easy to kind of get caught up in the whole, alternate reality thing. That we all like that. Um, did you feel that the film adaptation of Wizard of Oz reinforced or changed or just flat out ignored the subtext of the book, which admittedly not everybody really picks up on when they read. Like you got to take a college level course sometimes. Yeah, it pretty much ignores it. There are some scenes you could see that maybe you see the theme there. There's some industrialization notes that they hit around the flying monkeys, around some of the more gothic and grim aspects of the film. But for the most part, it's really interested in, hey, we were black and white one minute, now look at this color and this adventure with this girl from Kansas. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think that it tends to overlook what's going on. Let's do one more. Bob, you did Lord of the Flies. I was reading that this morning as well. I thought that was some good work. Talk a little bit about the themes of Lord of the Flies. Right, classism. There are aspects of bullying in there, of course. I think that's pretty obvious, and it was interesting to me that you picked up on what you thought could have been racism, and how what you wrote about casting. If you made this movie today, you said if you cast people of different races and ethnicity, you could really address some of the systemic issues today. I thought that was really interesting, and we're gonna have homework tonight, and some of that homework is going to be taking some of these texts and saying how you would adapt it to for modern times, for our actual time right now, and what you would do with it. And so I really encourage you to kind of run with that idea because I'm really curious about it. But yeah, and did you feel like I don't know which movie adaptation you watched, but did you feel like it addressed it? No, I mean that's fair. I mean it seems to get kind of caught up in the kids doing violence and this, that, and the other. Yeah, I mean it doesn't really hit those, but they're there, and I think because of the school that they get shipwrecked, all of those things. I think it's harder to talk much about class because, kind of the whole private school thing, but I think it's there. So we are now going to watch one clip from Richard III. Now, Richard III, this version with Ian McKellen, again, Gandalf, Magneto. You guys all make me feel old. I don't think either any of you have seen Lord of the Rings. I'm not sure you've seen X-Men, but William Shakespeare gets adapted all the time. In this particular case, Richard III, they adapted it by putting the play in a sort of post World War II, Roaring Twenties sort of setting, and that itself is going to change the way that the subtext and the text interact and how the themes feel. When you're watching this, I want you to take out your notebook and I want you to write down changes you see in setting from what you expected. Because Shakespeare doesn't give you a lot of vivid setting, description. It's not an actual screenplay the way that we're used to screenplays or plays now. So, based on what you expected when we read the speech last week, what do you think what was different than you expected? What did you think was similar? And changes or not changes, how did that impact how you interacted with the text and how you perceived the subtext? Folks at home, I sent you an email with the YouTube link to this scene. That is now is the winner of our discontent scene, and I want all of you to really pay attention to setting because the reason I picked this scene is it's fascinating what they do with settings. So, folks at home, it's about a 4.5 minute video. Watch it. Folks at home, end here. I want you to write down on your notes your thoughts on what was going on. When we come back, we will talk about that. And with that, remote folks, see you in a couple minutes. People in the classroom, pick up your pens and pencils. Let's get going. Hey guys, so what did you think? I felt like there were a lot of very interesting choices in here, the way that they split the setting. And one of the reasons that I chose this particular scene for this class is not just because I enjoy bathroom humor, which, I mean, who doesn't? But I find it very interesting that the director and Ian McKellen chose to have a significant portion of the soliloquy in the bathroom. What did you guys think? What did you see? And what did you think the setting, the subtext, like how do you feel like they influenced each other? Yeah, right. Especially with that secondary part, so the first half of the play, and of course, watching something visually is always to me a much, a very, that's the only way to really engage a play in a lot of respects. Shakespeare, as you know, like that's why we read it aloud, is because intonation, all of that, gets across what's going on. You just read this soliloquy dry, and it's open to all sorts of interpretation. Um, the interesting thing, so what you're pointing out here is that when he decides when he says that second part, and he's talking about, you know, the lascivious pleasing of the lute, that is a sort of body turn of phrase. But yeah, I agree with what you said. It kind of shows that to some extent he doesn't like believe in the piece. He doesn't want it. It's not worth his time. I mean, everybody has to go to the bathroom, and it's not something we all look forward to doing. Richard wants war. He does not want peace. So that's absolutely. I think that's a really good interpretation. What do you guys feel about when he sort of starts breaking the fourth wall? Uh huh. Right. So it's almost as if, because Shakespeare does wink at the audience a lot, that is something Shakespeare does quite a bit. So it's almost as if he's like, "Hey, you're part of this now. Like, come over here. This is you as well." Um, and basically, he shares with you his manipulations, and it's interesting. It's an interesting method, isn't it? How does that change Does it change the theme? Does it change the subtext? Does it change what is going on in the play when he breaks that fourth wall so literally? Right. So the text is pretty much word for word everything that we've read. So it's all about the visualization, right? Right. It's about the setting. It's about direction. And yeah, I think you're very right. I think that it is sort of trying to connect the audience to Richard and to his plot, and sort of talk about the. Yeah, right. Exactly. So what you're saying, correct me if I'm wrong here, is that Shakespeare is saying that the audience is part of what's going on with Richard, right? Yeah. So the subtext is what? Complicity? Okay, sure. Complicity in what way? Sure. Okay. You could definitely make the argument that in society, we all have a responsibility and are all responsible for the things that our government or the rest of society does. Shakespeare very clearly talking about England and its government and what it does to other people, be it the Irish to, Native Americans. Um, Shakespeare's basically saying to his audience, listen, yeah, you're not out there literally doing the horrible stuff, but this is your government and you're allowing it to happen. And I think you could make a very interesting argument here if you were to rework Richard III for modern day. So we're going to take a couple minutes, folks at home. I want you guys to work together in your breakout rooms, and I will put those together for you. And folks in the classroom, you already have your groups. What I want you to do is take the next 10 minutes and put together how you would change the setting, change dialogue, change acting to take Richard III and its subtext and themes in this particular speech and in general and address them to today's society. So let's get to it. I'll come around if you have any questions or anything like that. Let me know. I'm excited to see what you guys have. Okay, so as I walked around the room, really, really interesting stuff. I really liked Group A's thoughts about directly connecting it to the last few years of politics. Sort of the idea, sort of a House of Cards. Yeah, I aren't. Are you guys? I don't know that you guys should be watching House of Cards. I think it may be anyway. Um, yeah, the sort of Machiavellian uh, maneuvering about how you're going to gain power at someone else's expense and things like that. That I really like that, and I think it's a fairly obvious way to go. I really liked so online group two. I really loved your corporate setting, taking Richard III out of politics, out of Britain, and putting it in what did you guys call it? Slamazon. That was pretty brilliant. But sort of like this um, maneuvering of politics within a corporation. I thought that was really, really interesting, and I agree with you. I think that that changes a fair amount of some of the subtext and the themes of Richard III. So for Wednesday, remember your homework. Do those adaptations. I'm really excited to hear and see what you guys have. Extra credit, as always. This is not due Wednesday. This is anytime in the next week and a half. You guys can put together a video or a screenplay or anything like that. Extra credit. This is totally not mandatory, but you guys know I love to see that stuff. If you need a camera or you need editing software, come see me. If you had any problems today, didn't understand what we were talking about, had anything you needed clarified, email me. I'm here at lunch. I could be here early. I could be here late. I'm happy to help you out in whatever way I need to. For now, reminder: Green Cohort, you are in classroom on Wednesday. red cohort, you are remote. So everything has to be done on Google Classroom, submitted on Google Classroom. That way everybody has access to it. So I'll see you guys Wednesday. Have a good rest of the day.